Today we traveled to Baker County to speak to the husband and wife team who started their own trash pickup company after Waste Management left their county. They've only been in business for 1 year and already have 200 clients. And the best part is they only work 2 days per week.
We've got a $135,000 garbage truck that thankfully Kendall put a lot of trust in me, because the way we got that was a home equity line of credit on our house from the fact that when we were doing well financially, we saved a lot and paid down the mortgage a lot.
Nice. We
were able to get a decent HELOC, but that's kind of risky, you know, because if something happens, our house is on the line.
I want to buy a $260 trash truck. But we don't have any. Oh yeah,
Right.
$260,000 trash truck, but we don't have many customers for it at all. So that was made me a little hesitant, because that's a lot of money, and especially the monthly amount that he said it was going to cost was scary.
Yeah.
So we were doing 13-hour days, I think 12, 13-hour days, and then I came to him and I said, I can't do this anymore. You know, getting up at 2, leaving at 3:30.
Yeah.
It was a long day. So we said, okay. So we took some time and said, let's split everything into 2 days. So now we do just Monday and Tuesday.
So if you're looking at, I need to replace my garbage truck every 5 or 10 years or something, that could be another $20 or $30 or $40,000 you have to make every year just to put in a savings account. Because if that truck goes down, you know, you can't do work.
Right.
We use the CRM for everything we do. When we onboard people, when we ask for those reviews, when we send out reminders about your trash pickup, when we route people based on where they are and how we're going to pick them up, everything is done through that CRM.
What is stopping you from hiring employees and making this a full-time business right now? Is that something that you want, or is the goal to kind of continue as the business is right now? Before we get started, kind of about your unique business that you have, what kind of services do you offer to your clients?
Weekly trash pickup.
Okay.
That's it. And that's one of the things that appealed to me. I'm sure at some point we'll talk about why we got the business started, but I'm coming from lawn care and landscaping. And that's a situation or a business where you got to be careful, because, you know, you start off mowing lawns, but then you say, wait, I can add hedge trimming and make some money. And I can add, you know, light tree trimming and make some money, and I can add landscaping and make some money, and maybe I can do some land clearing and make some money. So you've got to add all this equipment and all these different processes, and then you have to quote all these things. And they're a lot of times very different to quote them accurately. So I had a whole bunch of different stuff that I did in lawn care and landscaping, and then you've got to have the you know, you need a string trimmer line, you need a hedge trimmer lubricant, you need something to sharpen that. You just get all this equipment that you have to support these things. So when we looked at this, the trash pickup business is because Waste Management left this county, and they were the ones who were offering that service. But I love the fact that all we need is a trash can and the garbage truck, and that's it. And there's we get a lot of comments on the videos about you should offer junk removal, you know, one-time cleanups. And I get the logic behind it, but I'm almost 40, and I'm looking to something that I can do long-term, which means I need to take out as much physicality as possible. And with the garbage truck that you guys will see, all I have to do is push the garbage can to the back of it, and it's got a tipper that does I didn't start that way. We started with manual pickups. And that was pretty terrible. But that's why. It's just, I like having one business. It's very simple. It's the same price for everybody who's in our service area, so I don't ever have to go out to somebody's house and look at their junk pile and guess, well, I can't really see the whole junk pile, but maybe this will take us 3 hours, and I don't know how much it's going to weigh, but it's much nicer to just be able to say, $36 a month, we come every week, we give you the trash. So that's why we're keeping it very simple. We want something that's going to be very easy for us to do long term.
Okay. Well, how long was it between the time when Waste Management left the county and you decided that you wanted to move into doing this business?
So this will be a good example of somebody who did it perfect, and then what we did. So before Waste Management left, there's another company, VJ's Trash Pickup. He's a young man who started in high school, and he collects manually with a dump trailer, and he's got a couple employees, a lot of customers locally. So it was him and Waste Management. Waste Management sent a letter. It was, I think it was the end of, maybe the beginning of April, that on May 1st, they were stopping business.
Okay.
And it was on a local Facebook group. That's one of the biggest local marketing things we have, is there's a local Facebook group that everybody kind of pays attention to. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And the day that letter came out, another local company, B&H Disposal, they did dumpster rentals, roll-off rentals, that kind of thing.
Sure.
They, that day, said, hey, we're rolling out this service. So they got the timing perfect on it, because as soon as everybody was seeing, hey, we don't have trash pickup anymore, this company said, we're offering it. And it was a new service for them to get into. But I don't know if they knew about it ahead of time, or they just immediately said, you want to do this? Yeah, let's do this. But it was a stroke of beauty on their part. It took me a couple of weeks of saying, I don't know if I can do lawn. I know I can't do lawn care forever. I don't know if I want to. And then I would talk to her. I'd say, these are some of the numbers I'm running with trash, and trash is 52 weeks a year. Where we are in Northeast Florida, lawn care, you can really only do 8 months out of the year between November to February.
Okay.
Nothing really grows where we are. I know you guys are further south in Florida where you can get away with mowing year round.
Sure.
But I really like the numbers of trash. So we took about 2 weeks before we figured out we want to try this thing out. So we started advertising our business and our prices. I think it was a couple of weeks into April. I think April 17th is when I started the LLC.
Okay.
So it was about 3 weeks for us.
When you started advertising, were you serious about it, or were you just testing the waters and seeing, like, are we going to get a good response from this? And then if we get a good response, then we'll decide to start the LLC and really jump in fully.
I am the kind of person who I like to have my ducks in a row first.
Okay.
So I did everything legitimate. I started the LLC. I reached out to somebody to start doing the branding. I had the logo done before I publicized anything. I think that might be why it took me about a week between when I started and when I was actually posting about it, because I wanted to make sure, we weren't anybody. We didn't have equipment yet. We didn't have any history in the trash pickup space.
Sure.
So I wanted to make sure that we looked as professional as possible, which was with a logo. So I think that's kind of the lead time that we had. But we knew that we were going to jump into it kind of with both feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you wind your previous business down before that, or were you doing both at the same time in the beginning?
In the beginning, I was doing both at the same time. So with Copper Creek Cuts, that was the lawn care business we had.
Right.
In 2023, I was running, I think, around 30-something customers, and I'd do them 2 days a week. And in 2024, I said I don't want to do bi-weekly or every other week mowing anymore.
Sure.
So I wrote to everybody and said, hey, I'm just going to offer weekly service from now on, so your lawn looks the best and that kind of thing. And then from there, that dropped us down to somewhere around 15 to 20 customers, depending. I just ended up doing them all in one day. So we would have some trash pickup, and then we would have the mowing as well.
Okay.
When we got into 2025, that's when this trash pickup had grown enough that, I don't want to drop somebody in the middle of the year for mowing their lawns, because if I call them up in August and say, hey, we're closing the business down, they're going to have to get stuck finding somebody else. And I thought that was a bad look. So I felt I either had to commit to another year of mowing, a full calendar year of mowing, or go ahead and wrap it up then. So that's where I talked to her about it. And financially, the better decision would have been to mow for another year. But it was a lot to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we decided to just close it down the beginning of this year.
Nice. And how long has Baker County been in business now?
It's been, I think, April of 2024 is when we started the LLC.
Okay.
And then June of 2024 last year was when we first started doing our pickups.
Okay.
So it's been just over a year that we've actually been picking up trash.
And how many clients and cans do you have out there in the community right now?
We have, and this is right after all these cans that you see here. These are cancellations or non-pays that we had to go pick up the other day. If you look at the statistics, it's interesting. Most people move during the summer. Okay. So we've seen in the past 2 months, we've seen like 80% of our churn since we've been open.
Interesting.
We've only lost a few people, I think 3 or 4, to moving or non-pay from the time we started until June. But between June and now, because of moving or just non-payment, we've lost, I think, another 15 or 16. But
Interesting.
as of right now, even factoring that in, we've got 210 clients
Okay.
and 250 something cans.
Interesting. And how did you set the pricing in the beginning? Was it as easy as, okay, what was Waste Management charging me before, and I'll do the same thing? Or did you have some sort of custom pricing that you developed?
It's what you said exactly. And this was another thing that if I can go back and change, I would, hindsight being 2020. But Waste Management was charging $34.67 a month. And the company that I told you about that came out and said, hey, we're going to start doing it, they were just a little bit higher, but their can was smaller.
Okay.
So we were going to have the same size cans everyone was used to. And I said, well, what we'll do is we'll offer the same price Waste Management did, but we're only going to accept annual paid in full plans.
Sure.
Which is a good idea on paper because it means we're getting, $300, $400 from each customer up front. But if it's a brand new company, if I could do it over again, I just would have said, which is what we currently do, $36 a month. We give you your own can and you can pay monthly.
Okay.
Because I do think I'd probably lost a good portion of people who didn't want to pay an annual upfront, to even though the other folks may not have been a better deal just because they didn't want to do that. So I think a month or two into it, I changed it to where you could also pay in full for the year, or we could do $36 a month for just a monthly pay.
Was that upfront cost in the beginning, though, important to you because you had to buy equipment, you had to buy the cans, you had to have a way to pick it up? Did you use that money to fund it, or were you bringing in money from other sources too?
So that was the idea, but thankfully, ever since we've gotten married, we've been pretty single-minded as far as paying down debt and saving.
Sure.
So we had a good chunk of savings that's pretty much what funded everything. So my thought process was, I'll do annual paid in full because it'll help fund everything. But most of what we did was just pulling stuff out of savings anyway. So again, if I would have just gone monthly from the very beginning, I probably would have got, I don't know what number, maybe another 20, 30, 40 customers in that month or two where I was only doing annual paid in full. So I definitely would have changed that if I could go back.
So Kendall, since you guys are involved in this together, what was that initial conversation like when he brought the idea of doing, trash pickup to you? Did you have hesitation? Were you fully involved into it?
Here, we're gonna move her front and center so she gets picked up on your mic.
So, yeah, because he came to me and said, I want to buy a $260 trash truck. But we don't have any. Oh yeah,
Right.
$260,000 trash truck, but we don't have many customers or any at all. So that was made me a little hesitant because that's a lot of money, and especially the monthly amount that he said it was going to cost was scary.
Yeah.
So we came to a deal. So he said, okay, how about if I get a dump trailer and you drive the truck and I'll do the hard work outside? And I said, okay, I can do that. So that's what we started with.
Was there any learning curve for you with driving the truck, or was that something you had experience with before?
So this truck or the trash truck?
Well, both of them, I guess.
Okay, so this truck didn't turn out so well for me because I can't see over the hood.
Okay.
So I believe it was like the first time that we were out, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna pull over and switch. And I just couldn't see with the trailer. So I should have practiced it before we did it. He ended up doing everything. So I just sat in the passenger seat and did the phone app.
Okay, nice.
But the trash truck is really easy to drive.
Interesting.
So you can see really well, like the visibility is really good out the windows, and it's easier to drive than my van, I would say. It's got a nice backup camera.
Nice. Is there any type of certification that you need to get to drive a truck like that? Or can you drive it with just a regular driver's license?
Well, the size that we have, you don't need
any
kind of certification. The bigger trucks, I don't know the specifications on what you need to have with a bigger truck, but a CDL, I think, is what it is. But I don't see myself getting that.
Okay.
But I like the little truck. I think it's cute. We call it my truck.
Nice. And is there any type of stigma to doing trash pickup? Like, was it something where it's like, I don't really want to be known as, the local trash collector? Because we've talked to people that do like septic tank cleaning, and there's kind of like a lot of dirty jobs out there that are really profitable, but people are like, nah, I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So it's really difficult for me to say I'm a trash truck driver, because that's just not how I am.
Sure.
But I do, and I feel like I have to explain everything. I'm just the driver. I don't do anything. You know, like he gets out and he does everything, all the gross stuff. So I don't have to deal with anything nasty. I just have I stay in the truck. Sometimes I get out during the pickups because I need to stretch my legs.
Sure.
So, he does everything. So.
Okay. And what do the pickups look like? How many days a week are you guys out there driving, in the community, actually doing the trash pickup?
So we just split it into 2 days about a month ago.
Okay.
So we were doing 13-hour days, I think 12, 13-hour days. And then I came to him and I said, I can't do this anymore. Getting up at 2, leaving at 3:30.
Yeah.
It was a long day. So we said, okay. So we took some time and said, let's split everything into 2 days. So now we do just Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
So it's about 7.5 hours Monday, and Tuesday is about 5.5.
All right. Very nice. People look at a 2-day week trash pickup or doing 1 12-hour day as a great work schedule, right? But there's more involved the rest of the week to running this business, right?
There is, and I think the first thing that's important to clarify, if this is the first time somebody's hearing about us, is we are not, this business is not making any money currently. Our annual revenue, if you look at the customers that I just told you, 210, and the amount of cans they have multiplied by $36 a month of pickup, we make just under $100,000 a year on paper. And I mean, we will make that, but because this business is so new, I think the first year we spent $50,000. That was actual money out. That's not like debt on the business, which is separate, but
sure.
We spent about $50,000, and I think we made either 20 or 30, so we burned 20 or 30. I can't remember the number. But this year, again, we've spent about $50,000, and we've made a little bit more than that, but we haven't paid ourselves at all for this. So that's one of the big things of this whole business, and part of the reason I'm documenting it is kind of an experiment of, if you're willing to kind of be a little bit uncomfortable or be really diligent about saving so you can live off of your savings for a couple years while you build a business and you don't take any money out, or what I think would be applicable for a lot of folks watching who maybe want to start their own business, is if you work a full-time job and then start something part-time in your free time and just say, all the money it makes is just going to go right back into it. And I'm basically going to be working for free for a few years.
Sure.
That's really what the goal is. So we do have a 2-day work week schedule, but if we had to live on that tomorrow, like we couldn't take a dime from savings and there was no other income coming in, we'd be hard pressed to do it because, the numbers of the business aren't there yet, especially when you look at, if you look at what it takes to run this business. Obviously, Kendall and I have some hourly wage that if you were paying somebody, you'd need 2 people in the truck. We don't get a wage, so that's 0 right now, but that's not really realistic to calculate for a business. But it is fairly cheap to run the business because all we have is the fuel that we burn, which on our route, we drive about 150 miles over those 2 days. It costs us about $60 to fill up the gas tank. So if you amortize that over our customers, it takes about 30 cents of fuel to service each customer.
Okay.
And then the trash cans and the truck, once they're paid for, they don't cost anything. So you've really just got your overhead of your insurance and whatever your labor wages are. So the hope is that after a few years of hard work and getting the business set up and paying everything off, then it'll be very efficient because there isn't really that much to running it.
Yeah.
At the very beginning though, we've got $30,000 in 400 cans that you've got to worry about. We've got a $135,000 garbage truck that thankfully Kendall put a lot of trust in me because the way we got that was a home equity line of credit on our house from the fact that when we were doing well financially, we saved a lot and paid down the mortgage a lot.
Nice.
We were able to get a decent HELOC, but that's kind of risky, because if something happens, our house is on the line. We're confident that there's enough backups and contingency plans that wouldn't happen, but for her to say yes to that. So when you're looking at our business, it's weird because if we if you just look at the business, we wouldn't be able to really live off it and it wouldn't pay all the things. But
Sure.
we're hopeful that after this ramp up period of maybe 2 to 5 years, that it'll be something where it can pay the business's expenses, which are relatively low. It can pay our household expenses for family of 4, which again, I think we're under average as far as expenses.
Sure.
But the biggest thing is these garbage trucks. So if you're looking at, I need to replace my garbage truck every 5 or 10 years or something, that could be another $20 or $30 or $40,000 you have to make every year just to put in a savings account. Because if that truck goes down, you can't do work.
Right. One of the mistakes we see businesses make is they don't follow up on invoices with clients. Jobber not only allows you to easily send invoices from your phone, but it will automatically follow up with unpaid invoices to make sure you're paid on time and your business runs smoothly. Well, it seems like you guys have, developed a good plan together, and you touched on this a little bit, but what is that ramp up period like? Like when, on a spreadsheet that you've made, when do you reach the profitability pace that you want to be at?
It's a good question. It's going to be different for everybody, but what we figured was business expenses are about $60,000 a year. A big chunk of that, I think we ended up at 30 or 40, was saving money. At first, it's going to be to pay off that loan.
Yeah.
But when that truck is paid off, then that's what we would need to save for a replacement vehicle. Insurance on that's about $10,000 a year. And just the fuel. Once the garbage truck is paid off and the cans are taken out of the equation, there isn't a whole lot that goes into running it every week. General liability insurance is like $600 a year. Maybe we need uniforms every once in a while, but those are real piddly numbers. So 60,000 is what we figured for business expenses. Then you come up with whatever your personal household expenses are. And we figure if we can be around 400 to 500 trash cans, we're hoping that that'll pay all those bills. It'll give us some left over for savings, and we can keep it to a 2-day work week.
Okay.
Whether or not that's possible, again, that's part of the whole reason we're documenting everything, because we want to see if it is, and we want to show other people if it is or not, and if so, what kind of numbers there are. One thing I forgot to mention too, that a lot of people with trash companies will call me out on, dump fees. I didn't mention that as one of our expenses because we are in an extremely unique situation where the county that we live in is a partner county with 2 others, and there's a local landfill. And part of that agreement says that any trash your residents generate on the county level, the county government has to pay. So even though we are getting paid to pick people's trash up, when we go to the landfill and dump, the county, Baker County government is who ends up paying the bill. So we just weigh in and weigh out, and we get a slip for our records, but I guess every month they settle up with them.
Okay.
So if you are running a trash company, tipping fees, dumping fees, that's going to be one of the larger expenses that you have.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't mention it, because we're in this really unique situation. I've talked to, there's a garbage truck manufacturer I was talking to. They sell all over the county, all over the country, and he said he has never heard of a situation like this. So that's why, but it makes our situation a lot better and, financially a lot more appealing to get into.
Interesting. Well, was there anything that really surprised you going back to the beginning? Like you're driving that first route, picking up, trash. What was something that you didn't anticipate or you didn't expect or was surprising?
The amount of personal, let me think of how to say it. Like when I would pull up to someone's house and they had an 80-pound trash can full of cat litter, for some reason, I took that as like a personal slight against myself.
All right.
Like, how could they do this? Those people don't care anything about me. They aren't putting, heavy cat litter in a bag saying, yeah, I'm really going to get Brad this time. And that's when we were, doing it all manually where I had to. So that was an interesting thing. I don't even know why I felt like that, but we did ask, part of our agreement says we ask that all trash be bagged, and part of it was because we were picking it up manually. It's just a lot neater too. But when you'd pull up to certain houses that you knew never would bag their trash, you'd feel like this personal resentment, like they were actively doing. So that was a really weird thing I had to get over, and I think it took me a couple of months before I was like, not only is this not healthy because I'm dreading these couple of specific houses every single week, but it's not accurate either. Like, people don't really, maybe you've got some psychopaths out there that do stuff to to actively harm the trash guy, but most people don't think about it. They just,
Yeah.
or the person I talk to, they might not be the ones doing it. You know, maybe I'm talking to the mom or the dad of the house and say, could you abide by these terms? And they say, yeah, absolutely. But you know, if they've got a teenager who's cleaning out their truck on a Friday afternoon and they just dump everything,
Yeah.
they don't know anything. So that was one thing that I think surprised me, how much it was affecting me personally. And I had to really be like, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't right. So I think that's it for me.
And have you ever seen anything where you're like, man, that's too nice to like throw this away, but you're just you're dumping it?
So he found some money in the back of it's in a wallet, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he didn't realize it until half was already in the hopper.
Okay.
He went in there and picked it out and tweeted it up, and we gave it back.
Okay. All right.
It looked like somebody had been doing some cleaning of some damaged stuff that was like there was mold and mildew on it.
Okay.
But yeah, so I cycled everything, and there was a lot of trash juice that day. It was wet, and there's all these dollar bills floating on top, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. But I will say, just this past week, we ended up not picking up what the customer said was trash because we got there, and it was a car seat, and it looked brand new. There weren't rips, tears. It was sitting next to the trash can.
Sure.
And so that's one of those things where, do I think it's trash? Probably. If somebody sets it next to a trash can, I would think most reasonable people would say, yeah, that's trash.
Yeah.
But we tried to call the customer and it went to voicemail. So, you know, we didn't really have a lot of time to sit there and debate. You kind of got to go.
Yeah.
But I said, the risk of me assuming it's trash, if it isn't, you know, maybe they set it out there for, you know, sometimes people will drive around looking for free stuff. Maybe they had an agreement with someone, yeah, I'll leave the baby seat at the curb. And you can pick it up.
Right.
So that's an instance where it looked too nice. And so we just said, if it's trash, we'll get it next week. It'll still be there, kind of a thing.
You have a business relationship with your clients, but do you also have a personal relationship with them? Or is it good to kind of keep them at arm's length, you know, so you're picking up their trash, but you don't want to know them personally?
I'm not opposed to knowing them personally. I would prefer it. We're kind of at the number where it's difficult for me. Like in the first year, I think I knew every stop by name.
Okay.
And part of that was because, like Kendall said, I was in the truck for each one driving, but we're getting to the point where, you know, if it weren't for her driving the truck, she does the routing. We run the Jobber app on the cell phone, so she knows more about the customers than I do because she sees all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we do try and stay in touch with our customers as much as possible. One of the things that we do, I'm pretty aggressive about getting Google reviews from folks.
Okay.
And so one of the ways that I do that is I will consistently send out emails, maybe once every month, once every other month, but giving little updates on the business or maybe about where your trash goes. Recently, what I found has a lot of good success is, you know, I'll say, hey, I promise Kendall, if we can get to 125 reviews by the end of August, I'll take her out to eat anywhere she wants. That's always good for like 5 or 10 emails right away.
Nice.
But the other thing that I try and do is I post a lot in the local Facebook groups. A lot of times it's just silly, dumb posts, but I think a lot of people know me from that, and then a lot of people know that I've got the YouTube channel as well. So
Sure.
My relationship with them probably isn't as strong as I would like, but I do feel like they probably, if you look at an average trash guy, they have more of a relationship with me than...
Well, and you guys have some iconic branding, like the orange shirts really stick out. So I'm sure if you're wearing this out around town in a small town, people are like, orange shirt, Baker County, right? They know it.
Go ahead.
So we do have friends that say, I see your orange cans everywhere. So I want to say too, I'm so glad we went with orange because I can see the cans when I turn down the street. So it's easy to see it. I'm like, oh, there's our customer right there.
Yeah.
So I won't, miss them. Well, sometimes I do have to back up. But, it's easier to see them so I don't have any issues like, is this address?
Yep.
Is this the right one? So it's nice to have that too. There's a street, one of the streets that we go down, you can see the cans just all down the street. I'm like, this is so cool.
That's awesome.
That also, it was much more it's still helpful, but it was much more helpful when we were running the 13-hour day, because we got started at 3 a.m. in the morning, and it makes it very apparent if somebody's a missed stop or not, because the orange can, you can see, when you turn down the street, it's pitch black outside, but you can see if they've got it out.
Yeah.
The other thing is, these orange cans, I fully admit, a lot of people may think they're obnoxious, and I agree, but that's kind of the part of it,
Right.
because you can't help but see these, and everybody else's cans are black, that service the areas that we do. So it was definitely a marketing play at the beginning, but it does have some practical effects because we can very easily see from a distance if somebody has their can out or not. And sometimes that can translate into actual time savings of us not having to drive all the way down. If anybody ever doesn't have their can out, we always take a picture of it, and then inside of the job wrap, we've got GPS timestamps of when we were there.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful because we have had only 3 or 4 times in the year we've been doing this, but we've had people say, hey, you missed my trash pickup. And then we're able to go back and say, well, here's the picture of your orange can at the house or the empty can or no can at the street in the GPS. So the orange cans, it started out as a marketing thing, but there are some unintended practical benefits that come from.
You touched on it a little bit, but what role does the Jobber app play in running your business with, project management? You mentioned, route planning, things like that. How do you fully utilize those features?
And it's funny you asked that because one of the comments that I always see on my channel is, Jobber does support our channel, so we'll do a video every once in a while highlighting that.
Sure.
But we use Jobber, and you can take out Jobber if you don't care about a specific brand, but we use the CRM for everything we do. When we onboard people, when we ask for those reviews, when we send out reminders about your trash pickup, when we route people based on where they are and how we're going to pick them up, everything is done through that CRM. The billing, so this is August 1st, which means that last night at 9 p.m., the system automatically billed our 200 something customers. And I got to wake up this morning and see how many thousand was headed to the bank, and 20 invoices didn't process correctly, so we needed to address those.
Sure.
But aside from picking up the actual trash and dropping off the cans, pretty much everything revolves around having that CRM software.
Interesting.
I know there's a lot of people who run these kind of businesses with pen and paper, but
sure.
I think my quality of life and hers as well would be a lot worse if we did not have some kind of software.
And it's not just focused on this type of business, right? Like people can use it for other type of
all
businesses.
home services. So I know there's people who do poop scooping for dogs. They use it, but it's really just home service businesses. So painters, HVACs, plumbers. I used it for Copper Creek Cuts, the lawn care company that I had before. Any type of home service business you can use it for.
There's 2 types of businesses we come across: those who can scale and those who can't. We believe the best way for a home service, trade, or construction business to scale to $1 million business is by using Jobber. If you want 20% off your first 6 months, check out our custom link below. So you guys have moved on to a legit dump truck over here. How did you make that decision to invest in that piece of equipment, and what was that process like?
The instant I decided to get a garbage truck is when we were collecting it manually, which was me picking bags up and throwing it in. And there's one where I throw it in and it catches the side of the frame and it explodes all over me.
All right.
And thankfully it wasn't like feces or anything, but it was some kind of decaying food and it was super juicy, and it had the most strong vinegar-based aroma to it that just got right in your nose. And I was like, I think I don't ever want to do this again.
Right.
Leading up to that, though, it had always been a consideration, because for us to collect manually, at least out of these 96-gallon cans, there are different sized cans, and smaller ones you may be able to physically tip.
Yeah.
And if I were a bigger, stronger guy, maybe I could do these 96-gallon ones too. But some of these things can weigh several hundred pounds with the trash, and especially in some cases if the lid flips open and we get some Florida rains, and you've got all that water you got to deal with too. So the way I collected trash was I bought a big 96-gallon liner that cost 75 cents for each one. The best price I could find them for was on Amazon. They were 75 cents. So if I'm getting 36 bucks a month, roughly $9 a week, 75 cents of that $9 is going to this liner that I'm throwing everything I can out, and then when I get to a certain point, I'll just bag that whole liner up and throw it. because otherwise I have to lift that 96 gallon, which I physically really can't lift it up into the dump trailer.
Right.
And that's just a lot of potential for injury and that
Yep.
kind of thing. So the math on those 75-cent liners, at a certain point, I was like, if this business continues to grow, what I am essentially throwing away in plastic trash can liners could go towards the purchase of a garbage truck and pay down. And actually, I think we're at the point now where what we pay on this home equity line of credit loan, I don't know if all home equity line of credit loans work like this, but this might be interesting for some folks. So that $130,000 loan that we took, or $135,000, whatever it was, it isn't due until the HELOC expires, which is, I think, 10 or 11 years from now. In between that time, all I'm obligated to pay is an interest-only payment, which averages about $900 a month. It depends on the number of days.
Okay.
Now, obviously, that would be a terrible financial move if I only paid $900 a month for 10 years, and then I would owe the full $130.
Right.
But the amount that I'm paying in interest only while we're growing the business and while we're hopefully gaining money to start to put towards the truck, that's almost what I would be spending in trash can liners with the amount of customers we had if we still had the dump trailer.
Interesting.
So that was part of the math problem.
So it was almost like a lateral move from trash can liners into garbage truck.
Yeah, and that's part of why I also wasn't as opposed to the risk with the HELOC, because I was either going to be paying that much money a month in trash can liners, picking it up manually, or paying that much for the interest payment on this truck. And also, my life's going to be a whole lot easier, and we're going to get done a lot quicker with this garbage truck. So once we looked at the numbers that way, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Now, I'm assuming you weren't a garbage truck expert before looking at that garbage truck. How did you decide on that truck? Like, why new versus used? How did you guys make that decision?
So, at least as far as new versus used, my entire life, I have tried to purchase used things, but psychologically, I can't ever get over the fact that I don't know how it was taken care of before.
Sure.
So that has always led me to buying new things, being ridiculously scrupulous about the maintenance on it, and then I know what has or hasn't been done. I also take very good care of my equipment as well. That's carried over from before I owned any businesses. That's the way it was when I started my lawn care business. And looking at garbage trucks especially, garbage trucks, even if they're well maintained, they just get beat up so many times because they're doing the same thing maybe hundreds or thousands of times a day.
Right.
That when you see a used garbage truck up for sale, there's a reason. Some company has ran the numbers and said, this truck is at the point where, it's just going to be headache from here on out. Especially with garbage pickup. Lawn care, I feel like if you ever have a mower go down and you say, I'm going to have to get to it next week, probably 9 people out of 10 are going to be okay with that. But if you put off trash pickup for a week, that's going to be something where you're going to get people. It's like a utility. They need their lights to work, they need their water to work, they need their internet to work, and you better pick up their trash every week too.
Yeah.
So because of that, we decided to go new. When you look at new, like she was saying at the very beginning, I wanted an ASL, automated side load truck, so I could run the whole route by myself. Those are $260,000 for the under CDL version. Under CDL meaning I don't need a commercial driver's license to operate it. Sure. Then we looked at, okay, well that's not going to work. So what is the cheapest, smallest, newest vehicle you can get to? And as an industry standard, it's going to be an 8-yard rear load. So 8-yard is the cubic capacity, the trash it can fit in it.
Sure. And
rear load meaning that you've got to go around to the back and empty it. So then it was looking at different brands and what was around me geographically, and we ran into a dealer out of Tampa that was advertising these for, I think it was like $125,000, and then once you added on tax and stuff, it ended up being $135,000. But
okay.
It was really just what's the newest and what is the cheapest thing that is new and lets us pick up trash semi-automated.
Yeah.
Which was with that.
Very interesting. What is stopping you from hiring employees and making this a full-time business right now? Is that something that you want, or is the goal to kind of continue as the business is right now?
It's a very good question, and I think we are probably in the minority in this viewpoint. There's an interesting parable too. If you look up, it's called different things, the businessman and the fisherman, or the contented fisherman. But the thought behind it is, are you wanting to grow something where money and more money is kind of the key indicator of success, or are you wanting more time for something else?
Yeah.
And at least for us, if we can pay all of our bills, both the business bills and our personal bills, and we can have some left over for savings based on, 2 days of work a week, we are kind of content with that, and we don't see a need to grow it into something where it's a 5-day-a-week operation, maybe with 1,000 clients, and we've got employees, because the stresses that come with that, interviewing people, trying to find people, trusting people to drive that garbage truck. If we got employees, we already don't make any money. If we had to pay out wages for the equivalent work we do,
Sure.
it would be even worse financially. But we probably wouldn't still be able to run everything out of our house if we had employees, so there'd be additional costs there. And the stress we feel now is mainly the stress of doing the work. Right now we get up around 5 in the morning and we're out the door around 6 for those 2 days of work a week.
Sure.
Obviously those days are going to get longer if we get to that 400 or 500 can marker, but if we feel like in 2 or 3 days of work a week we can pay for everything, I think that's kind of where we want to keep it, because we're okay with the stress of doing the work. And honestly, we're pretty goofy when we're together, so the fact that we get to spend all day together, I mean, in a garbage truck, it's not ideal. Like, it's not like I would rather spend time with you in this garbage truck than anywhere else.
Right.
But looking at the alternative of if I hired a driver and got her out, or if I hired a trash picker and I drove, then we would lose that time that we have together.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I think we're going to be content to keep it as small as we can while meeting those goals of covering all our essentials. A big part of that is, we've got 2 young kids, and we stress trying to spend as much time at home with them as possible.
Yeah.
We're in summer break now, but Kendall, she handles all the homeschooling for the kids.
Okay.
Whenever COVID hit, our local schools, they didn't have any virtual options, so we switched to virtual school. We found you save a lot of time with that. So ever since then, she's been handling that. So being able to have more time at home to help her with that, if we're only working 2 or 3 days a week, that's kind of our goal.
Well, it's interesting because as we wrap up here, a lot of people talk about finding their why before they start a business. And you talked about a little bit about the why of writing this. Did you have that idea in mind, like having more family time or having more freedom, more flexibility? Like, what was the why between the 2 of you for doing this?
Yeah, and we got spoiled. The company that I had before this, or the lawn care business I had before this, it really started, I was a stay-at-home dad. Her earning potential was a lot higher than mine when we started having kids. So at first I went part-time and took care of some of the kids, and I was working retail so I could work some weekends, and she had some flexibility during the week. And at a certain point I retired completely. And a few years after that, I said, well, what can I do to contribute? And that's how the grass mowing thing started. And I started the channel at the same time. And I wasn't the first one to do tall grass mowing, but I was one of the first. So I had a couple years of really good success.
Okay.
That ended up setting us up where we could work a lot less than the 5 days a week, 40 hours a week we were used to and that she was having to do. So she ended up retiring too. And that kind of set what our expectations would be moving forward, where we didn't want to have to go back into the workforce if we could run our own business. So looking at this, the expectation was we want to cover all our expenses and work as little as possible. And if we can do that, that's kind of success.
That's awesome.
In order to not have to do it by himself, I was like, I'll help you with it.
Sure.
So, and then it's just been that for, since we started, I've been helping him with it. So, I like the idea of only working a few days a week, just like he said.
Sure.
And I also do the homeschooling, and I do the cooking and, other things.
Yeah.
Things. So I want to spend time with my family, and, working 5 days a week, it's really difficult to do that. Sometimes when you get home, you're tired, but with this, I am tired when I get home, but it's not bad because I just spend all day with my husband. So I spend time with my family working, and then when I get home,
Definitely. Do you feel like between the 2 of you, it's led to actually a stronger family life of like having this business and spending more time together?
Yeah, I've, been able to spend more time with him, working with him, the 2 days a week too. So, because when he was doing lawn care, I wouldn't see him all day. She would get up, then the sun rose and he'd get home when it set. So I wouldn't see him all day. All I would do is pack him food sometimes, and then I'd hear from him occasionally during the day. But now it's nice because we, had this to do together. So it was really nice.
Awesome.
And I think one other thing too, you had asked her earlier about, was it difficult to say that you're a trash man? I think that's probably just going to depend on each person, but because I know that our why is we're just here to make sure we raise our kids the right way, and we have to be here to do that. We both feel it's very important for us to be home as much as possible.
Sure.
I don't really have any. I've been making a fool of myself on YouTube for 7 years though, so I might not be the right one to ask, but I don't really have any hangups about saying I'm a trash man, because it's just a math problem. For me, being a trash man, running this business is the easiest way to make the money that we need to meet that goal of work as little as possible and be at home as much as possible as a family unit.
Yep.
So that also helps me a lot with the whole why question of it.
Definitely.